Hello then, it's Adrian Goldberg welcoming you to my house for the Albion-Arsenal game. And massive game for the Baggies, this, isn't it? Absolutely huge after that 5-0 thrashing by Leeds United. If you're a Baggies fan like me, see, I've got my lovely Liquidator podcast T-shirt on. You'll have been sky high with excitement after a brilliant draw at Liverpool. Sam Allardyce's first game in charge. And that brought... excuse me, that brought everything that we imagined Sam Allardyce would bring to Albion, some shape, some method, some level of organisation. But that was followed then by a calamitous 5-0 defeat at home to Leeds United, an absolutely desperate performance by the Baggies, absolutely shocking stuff. And they go into this game really now with a point to prove. And I know one or two people already commenting that it's surprising, for example, that Romain Sawyers is still in the team, that Matt Phillips is still in the team for this game. I'll go through the teams in a minute, but it partly reflects the lack of options that are available to Sam Allardyce. He probably doesn't have that many. Well, he doesn't have that many choices, does he? That's the reality of it. So I'll quickly go through the teams for you in case you haven't seen them. Albion have dropped Lee Peltier. That's no great surprise. Peltier was a late call-up in the last game against Leeds after Kieran Gibbs got injured in the warm-up. So he's opted for the experience of Ivanovic, who I presume will play at centre-back alongside Semi Ajayi, with Dara O'Shea playing left-back. So you've got Sam Johnson in goal, then a back four of, I assume, Furlong at right wing-back, Ajayi, Ivanovic, and then O'Shea playing left-back, which he has done previously. Equally, he could play O'Shea at right back and put Furlong at left back, which he's also done, Furlong's also played at left back. Or he might play a 5-man back five, but I don't quite see he's got the personnel to do that. In central midfield, you've got Romain Sawyers. Pereira comes back for his first start under Allardyce after suspension. I think that's a good move. But I'm presuming you're going to have Sawyers and Gallagher in central midfield, Pereira on one side, Diangana on the other side, or maybe Phillips wide right, Diangana wide left, and then Pereira in the hole, and then Robinson up front. Robinson replacing Carlin Grant, which I think is well overdue. Nothing against Grant. I hope he comes good eventually, but he really hasn't done it for the Albion, and he's looked lacking in confidence as well. Arsenal are a weird side, aren't they? Not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago, they were being talked of as genuine relegation candidates. They've won 2 on the bounce now, and suddenly they're comfortable in mid-table. 20 points. I mean, it's still way short of what you expect an Arsenal team to be. Their team is Leno and goal, Bellerin, Holding, Mari and Tierney, the back four, Sabalas and Xhaka, the holding midfield 2, then Saka, Smith Rowe, and Aubameyang, sort of wide left, pushing into the middle, really, and Lacazette up front. I'm just looking at the TV coverage of this. They have Ivanovic playing left back. I really don't honestly see that, but I could be wrong. Maybe he's playing Ivanovic at left back. Gibbs obviously got an injury in the warm-up to the last game, so presumably he's not fully fit, or maybe there is a deliberate thing here where we've got him playing Ivanovic over Gibbs. Hello to Julie Berger. Hello, Julie. Julie says, hoping for a WBA win, even though I'm a Leeds supporter. Felt really bad for them, especially for Sawyers. I'll tell you what, Julie, we felt really bad. I really like Romain Sawyers. I think he's a really honest player. A lot of Albion fans slag off Romain Sawyers. They perceive him as not being kind of a workhorse, and he's not. He's not a workhorse. I first saw Romain Sawyers when he used to play for Walsall, and he used to play in a kind of hole behind the attackers, sort of kind of whatever you might say, a number 8 position, if you like, just behind the forwards. And he was terrific there. But then he's dropped back now to a much deeper role, as he did at Brentford. He isn't a workhorse. I'm not sure he's he's athletic enough to be a workhorse, but he's got some skills and talents about him. And he did apologise on Twitter, which I think took a lot of bravery after the Leeds game, for his shocking own goal. Anyway, Julie, it's lovely to have you along, and good luck to Leeds United. The players taking the knee, by the way, just as we start the game. This is from Nuts and Gum One, who says UTV. That's obviously up the Villa. I can't think of what to say to that, my old friend, but there we go. Mark Wilson says we need a win. Mark is an Albion fan, I'm sure. And yes, Mark, we do need a win. I think Albion will win tonight. I don't really know why. Obviously, it's partly because they've just kicked off, by the way. I am a delusional Albion fan who's ever optimistic. That's partly it. But I think Albion will win tonight. Mark's Travel says, I honestly can't see anything we can get out of this game. Far too many players who ain't fit enough, who work hard enough. Yeah, you might be right. Julie says, yes, agreed. He's a good lad, though. Sawyers, I agree. I like Sawyers. You know, at a human level, I like him. That said, perhaps he's one of those players who's been caught out in the Premier League, but the reality is that Albion's board haven't invested, and this is what you get in modern football. I'm torn in a way because I don't think that you should have to spend loads of money in order to compete with the Premier League, but then equally, I wish it wouldn't rain on summer's days, but it does. And the reality, if you're in the Premier League, is that you do have to spend cash if you want to survive. Like a lovely Liquidator T-shirt, by the way. This is actually a copy, one I've got for my mate Manish for his birthday the other week, but I haven't got my own one, so I had to wear this one. Adrian Turrell says, Adrian, do you think fitness is an issue at the club? I do, and I raised this on Twitter a few weeks ago. A guy called Steve Madeley, who works for The Athletic, who covered the Albion for years for the Express and Star, asked, kind of challenged that and said, well, have you got any evidence for it? And all I've got is the evidence of my own eyes, is that Albion have faded badly in a lot of matches this season. So I do think fitness is an issue. I think over and above fitness, even if you've got players who are fit, there's kind of a level of athleticism. And I think if you look at the top Premier League players, there is a level of athleticism. And I'm not sure that all of Albion's players have that athleticism. Richie says, let's see what happens. Hope we keep it tight for a first half. Going to watch this and cough stream. What's that mean? You're going to cough the stream. Again, one of the things from Albion's point this season has been conceding early goals. Every game you go into, you say, we must not concede early. We must not concede early on. And what do Albion do? They concede early on in so many games. It's shocking. David Wheel or Whale says, O'Shea. What's that mean? Oh, the other left back. I see. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, well, I thought the BT pictures that I'm watching had Ivanovic at left back, but it would make sense, wouldn't it, for O'Shea, who's played there before. Ooh, dangerous cross from Arsenal. Ooh, good header away, though. Arsenal with a shot. Oh, good stop, I think, by Johnston. Arsenal again. Oh, the shot was charged down inside the penalty area. Blimey. There's some early panic for Albion. We haven't even got 3 minutes on the clock. Julie says, I seem like such a nice, sweet soul. Blimey. Julie, you don't know me well enough, honestly. But it's very nice to see you. Thank you, Julie. That's very kind. That was a little bit of an early scare for Albion, that was. Arsenal having a couple of close shaves in the Albion penalty area. But Albion looking to break now with Darnell Furlong. It's great to see Pereira back in the team. Obviously, he got sent off and couldn't assume that he was going to be back in the side. But Pereira would always be in my Albion team. He's just got a quality, and I think the best teams, you build your team around your best players. And for me, Pereira playing in the hole behind the strikers, that's absolutely where he's got to be. Yeah, there's O'Shea, a left back, playing a decent ball forward. It's weird, isn't it? Looking at the stadium, the Lord is my shepherd on that backdrop at the far side. But no fans in the ground. I was chatting to a mate of mine who's a Wolves fan, bit of a dingle, and he was saying that he just isn't enjoying football at the moment. I wouldn't say I agree with that. I quite enjoy watching the game, but it's these little add-ons, isn't it, that make it feel a bit more like going to a match where you can have a bit of interaction and a bit of banter going on. This is Martin. Mart's Travels says, Ashley Stokes. I'll come to yours, Mart, in a minute. Ashley says, what's up with Grant? Well, I don't know, but I wonder whether he's just been dropped tonight and whether Allardyce has just decided that perhaps the disappointment of losing his place is a bit much for him and he needs to be given a bit of a rest. It wouldn't surprise me because I think it's a big step up from the Championship. We've seen it sadly go the other way down the road at Villa, where Ollie Watkins has looked really good this season, but Grant hasn't really stepped up. He scored the one goal, hasn't he? Oh, some good play there. Is that Dejan Garner? Good little crossing, testing the Arsenal defence. That was Robinson's cross, wasn't it? And I haven't got a very big screen. You'll have to forgive me. I'm watching it on my daughter's tablet, so it's not a fantastic screen. The screen that I'm talking to you on is the screen that I normally watch the football on. So I'm having to compromise a little bit here to do all this. So Mart says, this is an interesting point. Mart says it's annoying that Albion fans seem to have this thing that they have to be entertained. They're already slating Big Sam. Entertainment comes when you win football matches, even if it's done ugly. Yeah, there's a point at which I agree with you, Mart, actually. Oh, there's Dean Garner's trying to get through, giving the ball away as he has done so often this season. I agree. It's part of Albion's tradition. I mean, a lot of teams, I suppose, would say this, but Albion definitely have had this tradition of ball players. We've never, in my lifetime anyway, never been a team who've won loads of trophies. So what are you left with? A club with a traditional working class fan base. You're not going to bring them trophies. At least you can bring them entertainment. So Albion have always been that kind of team. I suppose another parallel would be West Ham, where the supporters go along and they do want to see a bit of quality and escape from the drudgery of often industrial working and all that sort of stuff. But I agree with you to this extent, Mart. I think that playing so-called entertaining football and getting hammered every week is no fun, is it? I mean, I made a point on Twitter on the last Liquidator podcast. I said I wasn't entertained when we got dicked 5-1 by Crystal Palace. Losing matches every week is not entertaining. And I think the idea of entertainment in football is sometimes just a little bit too simple. They're just showing a replay now. That was a really good stop with Johnston by his foot from Arsenal's number 7. Really good stop. There's kind of too much emphasis on football being some kind of Disney type entertainment. It's not. It can be a tough physical battle, and sometimes you have got to grind it out. Sometimes you have got to be tough and hard and just keep your shape and try and nick a goal. That's the reality of football, and that for me is why football's such a gripping entertainment. There isn't one way to play football, and there isn't one way to play football matches. But losing every week certainly isn't entertaining. I agree with you that, Mart. Mark Wilson says Albion were fit under Pulis. I'm not advocating TP. He says you better not be, Mark. He says, but we really competed over time in games. I agree. And I mean, Albion have done stuff this season which speaks to me just like a really poor organisation, conceding early goals when you set up properly as a football team. I haven't played at any great level, but my school team, when I played for them, were West Midlands under-19 champions, and I was in the same, I might have mentioned this once or twice to my mates, forgive me, played in the same school team as Alan Smith, who went on to play for England and Arsenal, and our coach used to send us out, don't concede in the first 20 minutes. And you'd set up not to concede in the first 20 minutes. And Albion have not been set up like that this season. And equally, we've been slack and conceded late goals in a lot of matches. So I think you've just got to sensibly, as a fan, ask questions about the fitness levels. I really do. I think it's been poor. Mart says, I've been going up there 40 years and it's getting the balance right. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Well, we started all right, haven't we? 8 minutes gone. Arsenal had that one little flurry, and we've had an excellent save with his foot by Sam Johnston. The shot came in from Saka for Arsenal. And, okay, have a little early scare on. That's okay. I don't mind a little early scare. 66% possession so far for the Albion, says Ashley. Yeah, that's just cropped up on the screen, hasn't it? And I did a little preview to this, and I said the teams that worry me, the teams that Albion I fear playing against, are teams with fast-running midfielders. So even though we'd got the decent results against Liverpool, and it was the same, wasn't it, when we got the draw against Manchester City? That was, although they do have fast-running midfielders, in fairness, and we just put up a really good show at Man City. But then we played Villa, who've got very good mobile midfielders. The same with Leeds. Here's Arsenal with a chance. Shot straight at Johnson. Nothing amazing there with that shot, was there, really? Pretty much. Ashley, Ashley, that's very interesting. Ashley says, you're 1 minute behind, Adrian. and we've just scored. But then he says he's only joking. Well, this is a thing with doing streams. I was chatting to somebody else who did one recently, and he said there is a thing where people can often be watching the same match, but with different speeds. So it's quite possible. I was watching. I was doing my accounts last night, and I had I was watching the Villa game on my phone, but the score when Manchester United got the penalty and scored, that came up on Twitter before it actually came up on my screen. So these things can happen. But sadly, Ashley, you were only joking, and we aren't winning 1-0. But you never know. As I say, I think Albion win this game. The point I was making was that I think you've got teams who've got really mobile midfielders are the teams that Albion seem to struggle against. So that was certainly the case against Villa, certainly the case against Leeds. You could argue that any team that we play against look like they've got really mobile midfielders compared to ours. And that was a problem when we went down last time, when our central midfield was either Livermore and Barry, Brunt and Barry, Brunt and Livermore. It felt a very stodgy central midfield. And Sawyers, although I think he's a very good passer at the ball, he's not particularly any more mobile than Barry or Brunt were, even though he's quite a few years younger than those players. So that is definitely an issue. St. John says he's not even on the bench even. Is he talking? Are you on about Carlin Grant, St. John? Yeah, I think that's, as I say, he might be injured. It's possible he got injured. Mark says Albion has spent most of the season in a slow stream. That's true, Mark. I can't argue with you. Arsenal have got a corner now at the Brummie Road end. And Morgan, who supports Leeds United, says, hi, hello, Morgan. Nice to have you along. And you've got a nice team there, I have to say. Too nice. No, we do like Leeds, except when they're stuffing us. They're a cracking team. Mark says, Livermore and Sawyers are too slow. We need Sawyers with an athletic player. Yeah, but I think in modern football, I'm not sure you can get away with just having one trick, really. Sawyers is not at the top level. I think Sawyers is a terrific championship midfielder, even though some Albion fans were a bit down on him, even in the championship. But I like him. I think he's a very good, silky kind of championship player. I think you've got to have a bit more about your game in the Premier League. Even if you're a really good passer, you've got to have a basic level of athleticism, and I'm not sure Sawyers is up at that level of athleticism yet. St. John saying, yeah, Carlin Grant surprised. Well, you know what, St. John, as I say, it's possible that Carlin Grant is injured, and we often don't hear these things, do we, till the post-match press conference. But with Carlin Grant, even before Allardyce took over on the Liquidator podcast, I said I thought that he should be dropped for his own sake. His touch wasn't good. He didn't look confident in front of goal, and I missed that cracking opportunity, didn't he? Against Leeds when I think the score was only 1-0, which could have brought us back to 1-1. And I know players can miss chances. I'm not slating him from that, and I'm not discounting him, but I think Grant just needs to be taken out of the firing line for my money. Arsenal with a free kick from the right. It's nodded up into the area. Good punch out by Johnson from the edge of the 6-yard box. A drive over the bar there from the Arsenal player. Yeah, Tierney was that, the centre-back. Yeah, classic centre-back shot, wasn't it, really? So, yeah. So what, 13 minutes gone? Albion haven't conceded. I think we ought to have a little Mexican wave for that, don't you? It's looking pretty snowy at the Hawthorns. I live probably 6 miles from the ground. And, it was pretty snowy today, on and off at different parts. Johnson just clearing upfield. This is Mark Wilson saying he's caught in possession quite often, but he can learn awareness. But we need something now. I presume you're talking about. Are you talking about Carlin Grant now? Grant is injured, confirmed by his own tweet, says Indiana Springs. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that, Indiana Springs. Thank you. So he is injured. That would explain it. Julie Burgess. Oh yes, somebody has disliked this live chat. I don't understand that. I mean, if you don't like it, bugger off. You don't have to watch it. Julie Berger, my number one fan, says she'll slice them in half. Excellent, Julie. That's what I like to hear. St. John says we're not defending for our lives. Oh, Mark says talking about Sawyers is caught in possession quite often, but he can learn awareness. But we need something now. I'm not sure you can learn that kind of awareness, that spatial awareness of what's around you. I think the die is cast quite young on that, really. And looking at this, Callum Robinson is pushing high up the field there, as is Pereira. So Albion sort of look like they're playing with, willing to commit 2 men forward anyway on the opposition. Yeah, they're pushing up quite high there, Pereira and Robinson, closing down. Well, that's a good switch of play for Arsenal there, catching us out at left back. It seems to have become a problem position this season. Chance driven across. Oh, that was close. That was a very, very near thing, wasn't it? Aubameyang there was arriving at the late post, at the back post. I think that was Saka with the cross, wasn't it, from the right? And again, this strange business. Bilic didn't seem to like Kieran Gibbs. It was a dangerous moment. Just revisit that one. Yeah, Saka swung it across the face of the goal. It was really good skill. He took on Dara O'Shea, and Aubameyang arriving just too late at the back post. So a bit of a let-off for Albion, that. But after Kieran Gibbs got sent off earlier this season, he stuck with Townsend, and Townsend did all right when he came in, and sadly he got injured. But then everybody thought he'd give Gibbs the shirt back, and he chose to play Matt Phillips at left back. And now Gibbs, assuming he's fit and he's on the bench, so I think that's a reasonable assumption, Allardyce now has chosen not to go with Gibbs, and he's put O'Shea at left back. I'm a little bit puzzled by that. To me, you always play a player in position, and O'Shea, although he's a terrific player and a really promising player, is he really the best left back that Albion have got? Well, surely if Gibbs is fit, he's the best left back today. So I don't get this playing players at left back when you've got Kieran Gibbs as an option. I really don't get it. Gibbs has his weaknesses defensively, don't get me wrong, but when Albion are good, and when they were good last season, Gibbs and Diangana going down the left side were a really dangerous, threatening combination. So, you know, we've already looked vulnerable a couple of times down our left side defensively, and the Arsenal number 7 looks pretty decent. Saka, I'm not sure I've seen Saka play in the flesh, but he looks pretty dangerous. This is Indiana Springs. Says Gibbs has glass legs. Sam is worried about the frost. He's had quite a lot of injuries, hasn't he, in his career, Kieran Gibbs? But you know, a lot of players do. It's not always their fault. Ball swung over again from Albion's left, the Arsenal right, swinging across the edge of the 6-yard box. And Albion do need to get a grip of that. I mean, we've been playing for 17 minutes now, and Arsenal have already swung over 3 decent crosses from that side. It was another cross. This was from Saka again towards that back post. And there was at least a better Albion cover on that side. But Saka is looking tricky. And this, I think, is the price you pay for not playing a left back. That said, even when Albion have played recognised right and left backs, they've been pretty vulnerable to crosses this season. That's been a real feature. You can ask questions of Sam Johnston, you can ask questions of the centre-backs, but far too often from both the right and the left, crosses have been allowed to be made by opposition teams. And Saka, the number 7 for Arsenal, has already given us the run around. This is St. John, says, weren't we lucky to swap Burke for Robbo? Absolutely. I really like Callum Robinson. I think he's a really honest player. He's versatile. He can play on the wing. He can play up front, as he is today. Yeah, Arsenal down the right again. God, blimey. There's a cross cut out this time by Johnston with a punch. There's a chance for Arsenal to have a shot from range. Cleared on the edge of the box by Albion. Another chance for Arsenal. Dink forward. That's going to be taken by Johnston. And it was. But blimey, how much space now? So I've picked the left-back situation there with O'Shea playing at left-back. But left side midfield is Diangana. And I think a lot of Albion fans thought we'd done good business. A lot of West Ham fans thought we'd done good business when we signed Diangana in the summer. He hasn't done it in an attacking sense this season, but defensively, he looks really vulnerable, doesn't he? So it's not just the left-back situation where O'Shea is a slightly strange choice. Arsenal That was a dangerous moment there, cross from the left this time. But on our left-hand side, Dean Garner defensively, it's not that he doesn't work, I don't think. He does track back, but he doesn't seem to make decisive interceptions. He doesn't seem to make tackles. So he tends to be near where the ball is, but he doesn't really seem to know how to do his defensive work. Arsenal attacking down the right again. I think Albion need to do something, find a way to change this at the moment, because Arsenal are sort of piling on down the down their right and our left. Oh, Albion with a chance to break now, just into the Albion half. Come on, there's a runner there. There's a runner. The ball's dinked forward. Here's a chance. Come on. Oh, straight at the keeper. Was that Matthew Phillips? As I say, I got a small screen. I think that was Matt Phillips, shot straight at the keeper. Still with a chance here. We're still on the edge of the penalty area. Oh, this is good for Albion. That's good. It relieves the pressure a little bit because Arsenal have been building up a bit. There's a cross from Phillips. Not a great cross. Arsenal have the chance to get away with it. This is Julie Berger again saying, I get too much anxiety from watching the actual game. I just watched the stream. But are you a Leeds fan, Julie? You're a Leeds fan, aren't you? I think. You can't get anxiety about watching an Albion game, can you? James Gwilt says, is Johnston now too good for us? And do I think we'll lose him in the transfer window? He's not too good for us. He's sort of where we should be aspiring to be, isn't he? He is a Premier League footballer, Sam Johnston. And I never understood some Albion fans just seem to have it in for him. I never got that at all, just because he played for Villa. Well, he's a professional footballer. There were occasions when I felt that shots went past him that he might have made an effort to save, and he looked a bit flat-footed. He's never commanded his area that well, but he's always been a good shot stopper. But this season, he's really come into his own and been a fabulous player. I mean, Arsenal have got it on the right again. He's always been a good shot stopper, Johnson. He's really come into his own this season. I think the trouble is, we could try and cash in on him because he's only got 18 months left of his contract if we sell him in January. But if we sell Johnston, we'll have to buy another decent goalkeeper, won't we? So it would be a false economy. I think the club should do all they can to try and tie him down. If he's got a decent agent, he probably won't be tied down, though, will he? He'll probably want to see out the season. Oh, there's a goal. There's a goal for Arsenal. Blimey. That was sloppy defending. Again, Albion, just as they were against Leeds, were just capable of being run through there. Shocking defending. Tierney, the goal after 22 minutes. But Albion was so weak. I'd been criticising them down the left-hand side defensively, but that was on the right-hand side. Yeah, Furlong, says St John. Yeah, that was poor play by Furlong. The ball was dinked over from central midfield out to Tierney. He's got Furlong in front of him, pushes the ball past him. It's a straight old chase there, then cuts in, then goes past Furlong again, and then a good right-footed shot, it must be said, from a left-back. But Furlong was beaten twice in that run. Really poor. And then Ajayi goes out to him, but I don't know, Ajayi just sort of stood in front of Tierney, didn't put a challenge in. I don't quite get that. Johnson had no chance. I mean, it's a very good goal by Tierney, I'll give him that, but I'm getting slightly fed up of teams scoring brilliant goals against us. Two-footed Tierney, because he did the first bit of the dribble with his left foot, and then he curled it away with his right foot. I mean, it's a really good goal. You've got to give him credit, the Arsenal left-back. 23 minutes, but another sloppy goal defensively for Albion. It really only had sort of one worthwhile move in the game, I would say, so far. Thanks for joining me, by the way. I really appreciate it. It's a nice way to watch the game. Sadly, it scared my daughter away. My daughter usually watches with me. She's been a bit scared away. And I said, don't worry, you don't have to be on the stream. She doesn't want to be on the stream. But I usually watch these games on laptop with her. But anyway, thank you, everybody, for joining in. It's really nice. And if you are a listener to the Liquidator podcast, that'll be back again on Monday with me and Chris Lepkowski. Just check out your favourite podcast platform, and we'll tell you where you can get these as well. It's quite nice, isn't it? So our Liquidator t-shirts. Oh, here we go. Arsenal attacking down the right-hand side again. Oh dear. I did have high hopes for this game. As I said at the start, probably delusional, and it's looking more and more like it. Mart says, oh yeah, Mark Wilson has gone through, and Indiana Springs as well, some of the players that we need. Indiana Springs we need a Malumbu Jakob Shana character, quality and cojones, if that's how you spell it. I think you did spell it right there. Yeah, we do. We need somebody in midfield who can put in a crunching tackle. Thankfully, that's a terrible miss by Aubameyang. Oh, Lacazette. A terrible miss by Lacazette from about 25 yards. But Arsenal are all over us at the moment. And that's where you need that player, isn't it? That Shana, that Malumbu, that player who'll get stuck in. I don't think we've got that player. I really don't. I think that when you've got Livermore as your best option like that, they're just replaying Albion's best moment of the game, which was a shot by Phillips straight at the keeper. And then they're replaying the moment when I'm afraid Furlong was rather schooled by Tierney. But yeah, man asked questions about Furlong there. Also asked questions about Shemi Ajay, who came towards Tierney but didn't stop him as the ball went in. Mart says Sam Johnson is playing much better now due to having more confidence in his 6-yard box. He's punching better and being more positive in his 6-yard box. I'd agree with that. I think he does seem to have been encouraged to come out and command his 6-yard box a little bit more than he did do. And he's not the perfect keeper, but I think he's got to be one of the best keepers in England now. Julie says, I am a Leeds fan, but I really like West Brom. Football in general makes me anxious. Oh, Julie. Well, look, I'll save you any anxiety. Albion are going to get hammered in this game. That's that. No, I don't believe that. I think we can still make a game of it, but we've got to get hold of the ball early on. I think was it after 13 minutes, we had 66% possession, but we hadn't done anything with it. The thing that slightly frustrates me looking at this game is that Arsenal aren't a team who seem to have fast players in midfield. I was talking earlier about the mobility of midfield. They can use the wings well, and Tierney's obviously dangerous from left back, as we saw with the goal, and Saka looks good on the right wing. But in central midfield, I think, if we have that kind of player who could get in there and mix it a little bit, we'd have a chance. I think it was a little bit of lazy punditry from Martin Keown, who was doing the BT Sport before the game. And Keown was going, oh, yeah, Sam Allardyce is there, so Albion, they're going to try and mix it. It's like, what with, Martin? It was just lazy commentary, and too often you see that from the guys who've been around the commentary box for a while. It's West Brom, it's Sam Allardyce. Allardyce will be getting his players in there to mix it. Well, no, they won't, Martin, because we haven't got the players to mix it. And if you'd done your homework, you'd realise that we haven't got the players to mix it. Indiana Springs says, my daughter is probably scared of watching the Albion. Yeah, it's nothing to do with not wanting to be on the live stream, because she could watch it down there and she wouldn't be on the live stream. But yeah, I must say, when your team gets pummeled every week, I mean, she loved the Liverpool game. We had, really enjoyed that. But then when you're watching minute after minute and you're getting hammered, as we were 5-0, there is a chance for Arsenal 2-0. Bloody hell. There we go. That's Saka, the number 7. It looked so lively tonight. I don't know, 28 minutes gone. Are we looking at another 5? Are we looking at another 6 today? I mean, already I'm thinking my pre-match prediction that Albion would win is looking a little bit foolish. I mean, we're already in keeping the score down territory, aren't we? I mean, Arsenal cut us apart there, attacking down the right-hand side, just the quality of their passing here. I mean, that was a classic Arsenal move. Wenger would have been proud of that little one-touch football, playing us all the way through the midfield. And Saka, the goal scorer, was involved in the build-up and then arrived to finish it off 3 yards out. It was a good goal again by Arsenal, but again, we're running, been run ragged. But come on, we've got Ivanovic in central defence. That was a big, big, big moment for Albion, I think, when Slaven Bilic, I think, staked part of his reputation on signing Ivanovic. Ivanovic had been out of the English game for 4 years. Now, if you're out of the English game, out of the Premier League for 4 years, and you're 36, really? And he's come in on what I understand a massive wage, is 60-odd grand a week. And funnily enough, we're getting run ragged by Arsenal, in central defence. that was a really dicey signing, and you're hoping, you got to go with it. You got to have a bit of optimism. You're hoping Ivanovic is coming there to lend his weight, his experience, his organisational skills. Sadly, and this is not an ageist comment, because I believe you can be plenty of players can still be very good at 36. Isn't Cristiano Ronaldo 36? But Ivanovic looks every minute of his 36 years. And he wasn't to blame solely for that goal. But when you get run ragged, as we were for that second Arsenal goal, well, don't be surprised when you've got a 36-year-old centre-back who's been playing in Russian football for 4 years. You cannot be surprised at that. And, Bilic was a good guy, tried to play football the right way. We had a chat earlier about entertaining football, but that was a big, big signing for Bilic. Not because he cost a lot of money, he came on a free transfer, but because of his wages. And I have to say, Ivanovic has been a complete flop so far, absolute flop. This is EFC Tom, says Arsenal are there for the taking. Well, Tom, I wish I could share your optimism. Lovely to have you on board, though, Tom. Thank you to everybody who's joining in, by the way. Eve says, can we apply to the league to play all our remaining games away? Well, this hasn't really been a performance, has it? You're looking at, here we go, Arsenal cutting in from the left. Now, there's a block there, good by Shemi Ajay. Arsenal in a corner. After the Liverpool game, you're looking for a performance, aren't you, from Albion? You're looking for the players to say, we are really sorry about that, and we're going to show you, and we're going to do something really different. So far, Arsenal haven't cut us to ribbons like Leeds did. Leeds were 4-0 up at half-time. But apart from a pretty feeble shot by Matt Phillips, bearing in mind this is a home game, apart from a feeble shot by Matt Phillips, we haven't really troubled Arsenal, have we? And they have looked dangerous all the way through the game. This guy's taking the corner on the left now, Saka. He's looked really good tonight. I can't remember seeing Saka before, but he looks a player. The trouble is, a lot of teams look good against us, and a lot of players look good against us because we're not good enough. Arsenal are playing inside the penalty area there. Cross again. Oh, fantastic save by Sam Johnston. Just tipped that over the bar. Brilliant save again. But we do say, sorry, EFC Tom, but we are the ones. West Bromwich Albion are the ones who look like they're really there for the taking. That was Lacazette with the cross. Oh yeah, it was nearly an own goal. I think it came off Ivanovic. The snow's really coming down, isn't it? Lacazette's cross. Yeah, it came off Ivanovic, and a terrific save just under the bar by Sam Johnston. If we do sell him, hopefully that'll add another 5 million onto his value. But Arsenal look like they're really fancying in this now, aren't they? And you would do, wouldn't you? You're 2-0 up. You're against the team who are next from bottom. And Albion have got to find something from somewhere. I think that at half-time, if it's 2-0, I think Allardyce has got to change this. It's difficult, isn't it? Because if we change it too much, you risk another 5 or a 6 and a demoralising defeat. But if we stay as we are, we're risking a 5 or 6 here to me. Crossing from the left for Arsenal. Header in. Straight at Johnston. Thank you. This is from Boeing UK. Says, absolutely shocking defending again. We are always there for the taking. Hard to disagree with that analysis, isn't it? Oh, man. From the corner there, ball goes over Furlong. Furlong jumped and completely missed the ball. You never know, though, in football, those of us who've watched it for a long time, it is a funny game. If Albion could somehow just sneak one before half-time, just put them under pressure and ask a few questions of Arsenal, because that's what's not happening in this game. We're not asking any questions of Arsenal. In fact, there's Arsenal on the attack again with Tierney. Leon says, why is Kravinovic always benched? Well, Leon, I'm a 50-50 about Kravinovic. I think he was decent, just about decent in the Championship. And in the bit after coronavirus lockdown, he was actually one of our better players in that period. So he probably did just enough to justify a contract. Probably. And there's a sense, isn't there, that Pereira, for example, enjoys playing with him and likes him in the team and all that sort of stuff. I don't know how relevant that is or important that is, but that he seems to be a popular guy. The thing I would ask about Kravinovic is he's a hard worker, but where's his end product? I've seen him in loads of good positions, not finding the back of the net. He did score a couple of goals in the running, which I mentioned towards the back end of last season. I think at the end of this season, I think when you look at Albion's squad hard, whatever division we're in, I would be surprised if Kravinovic stays. He kind of, he's an all right footballer, isn't he? But again, just not quite the end product there for me. This is from Indiana Springs, saying Big Sam is the most experienced manager of getting out of these situations, but I just don't know who could sort this out. He must be wondering what he's done taking this on. Well, I think you might be right. I saw a stat. Here's some stats here have come up now. Albion have had 1 attempt on target. Arsenal have had 10. We've had 1 on target. They've had 5. But even the 1 on target that we had, this is where stats can be so misleading. The 1 that we had on target was a piss weak shot, wasn't it, by Matt Phillips, straight at the goalkeeper. Didn't threaten him at all. But Indiana Springs question about Sam Allardyce. I think the greatest escape that Allardyce was responsible for was at Crystal Palace, who were perhaps in an even worse position than we were when Allardyce. Oh, there's a long shot there that the Arsenal keeper fumbled. The snow is really coming down, isn't it, making the conditions pretty difficult. Palace were in a worse situation than we were, but we can always hope for an abandonment, can't we? Come on, ref, it's unplayable, surely. In the January transfer window, when Allardyce kept Palace up, I read a story the other day that he spent something like £30 million in that January transfer window. And obviously, January windows, you're always a bit of held to ransom, aren't you, by selling clubs, because they know that you're probably desperate. There's also a risk that the players that you really want aren't going to be available, because who's going to join a team who might be in the Championship next season? Who's going to join who is truly worthy of being in the Premier League? We've only got 1 domestic loan left. So you then come to, can we spend, or will we spend 30 million quid like Palace did in that January window? And the answer is obviously no, we won't. And you look at our owners and you just ask the question, as I said earlier, I don't like the way that modern football is dominated by money, and that you have to have shed loads of cash just to be an average Premier League team. But I don't like the fact that it rains in the summer, but it sometimes does. And the fact is, if you do want to compete in the Premier League, unless you're very lucky with a crop of younger players coming through, which some clubs do, unless you're in that situation, you do have to invest. And Albion's owners haven't invested. We know they want to sell the club. And so they're going to be in a situation whereby next season, if things don't change, they're going to have to sell a Championship club, which is a much less sellable proposition than a Premier League club. So they might be persuaded to open the purse strings a little bit in January, but nowhere near the 30 million that Allardyce had when he kept Palace up. Mart Travel says not one outfield player is worthy of being selected. I think you could get 10 blokes out of the marksman who would put more effort in. Is the marksman still open, Mart? We had on the Liquidator podcast, we heard from Chris Lepkowski that Martin Jol, in his days as an Albion player, used to like the marksman. In my time of drinking round West Brom, I'd say the marksman wasn't always the most salubrious joint. But has it not gone? Is the marksman still out? I thought it was like a Romanian shop or something like that. I could be wrong. I've been trying to have a little go forward now, but not looking much like. I mean, it's got to be unplayable, hasn't it, ref? Shouldn't we be lobbying the match to be called off now, abandoned because of the snow? It's not going to happen, is it? No, a strange sloppy back pass there from Arsenal gets us a corner. Yeah, we get one here and we're back in it before half time. And my dream of an Albion victory is back on. Well, the Albion players are taking a bit of a time to get up. I don't think they quite appreciated that they'd won the corner. Our first corner of the game after 39 minutes. Who's going to take this one then? Matty Phillips is going to take it from the left. The snow does look really intense, doesn't it? the most intense we've had in the West Midlands today, I think. Good corner, heads go up, just pings wide. Ajayi was up there, skimmed off his head and went wide. Oh well, that's another one to keep the stats fans happy. This is from Cenk Tosun on loan, says EFC Tom. Yeah, on the Liquidator podcast, which is an Everton fan, Tom, you're allowed not to know about. It's my West Bromwich Albion podcast that I do with Chris Lepkowski. As soon as Allardyce came in, I said we'd have a good chance of getting Cenk Tosun on loan. Allardyce signed him for 27 million for your club, Tom. 27 million quid, and he said pound for pound is the best striker in Europe. And he can't make a regular start in Everton's team, can he? Not that, Everton are, obviously a decent team these days. He came on, didn't he, in the last game, Cenk Tosun? Came on as sub for Everton, but I'm not sure he's going to make a massive difference to West Bromwich Albion. But I think you're right. We're only allowed one more domestic loan. This is Indiana Spring says, I don't think Palace won in Sam's first 6 games. You might be right there. I mean, Palace were pretty rubbish, weren't they? And he did an amazing job there, but he struggled at first, and he needs time on the training ground with these players. I'm not blaming Allardyce for any of this, really. I'd ask questions about his choice at left back, but blah blah blah. Arsenal are clearly better than us. Ashley Stokes says, why can't Grzycki get a game? He rips it up for Poland. Well, I would have thought that Grzycki would be the kind of player that, oh, that's a nasty tackle, isn't it, on Conor Gallagher? I would have thought that Grzycki would be the kind of player who Allardyce might like going forward. I think he's a decent player. Yeah, Bellerin with a yellow card, very well justified. It was a nasty tackle by Bellerin on Conor Gallagher. And Albion have got a free kick just inside the Arsenal half now, about 10 yards inside, over towards the touchline. Ball dinked in. Come on, chance here. All bobbling and bouncing around. But I don't know, the conditions may be a leveler that might help us bring Arsenal down to our level. Mark Wilson says we could be the next Sunderland. I totally agree, Mark. I certainly don't think, if the calculation is that from the Albion board, that if Albion go down, we'll have the parachute money and we'll then therefore be able to sign better players and go straight back up again and back into the Jeremy Peace mindset of being a yo-yo team. I agree with you, Mark. I really don't think you can assume that. I think a lot of the players who were on the pitch tonight for Albion, if we went down to the Championship, would not be there next season. Some of them, even though they got us up, some of them are clearly not good enough, and others would be picked off by other teams. And it would all depend who was the manager at that time. That's a wayward cross by Sawyers. The pitch does look difficult to play on, really. I know I was joshing about an abandonment earlier, but the ball isn't flowing freely on the pitch, and Gallagher's just lost his feet there in central midfield. I can't remember a Premier League game being abandoned. Come on, send me a message. When was the last Premier League game that was abandoned? I saw some pictures today of, was it Forest Green's match at half-time, where you couldn't see from one end of the pitch to the other? Some people might remember a game Albion played against Chester on Boxing Day, some point in the 80s. Chester! Yeah, we'll be back playing Chester before you know it. But we were playing Chester on Boxing Day, in probably the 3rd level of English football, what would now be League One. And you certainly couldn't see from one end to another. And people in the crowd were shouting out what was happening to other people in the crowd to tell them what was going on. But even that game was played. I can't remember a Premier League game being abandoned. Mark says he thinks the Marksman is closed now. Yeah, Boeing UK says call it off. Yeah, 100%. Boeing UK says, do you think there's... Oh, we are Arsenal through? Oh, that was another near escape for Albion. Another close shave. God, blimey. But Arsenal had an attack for a while. Albion had managed to have a little bit of ball in their half, but they caught us on the counter-attack there. There's Dean Garner. Is that another save from Johnston? Yeah, I think so. Come on, Albion. Come on. Matty Phillips losing the ball. I mean, so much of this, you get your hopes up, don't you? We get the ball in their half and you get your hopes up and we give it away. Ian says a PSG game recently was abandoned. Oh, okay. There is hope there then. Holes in the narrative says, get the orange ball out. Yeah, absolutely. We need that out there, don't we? Boeing UK says, do you think there's any chance Albion could make another change of manager if we carry on like this, especially when you hear all the stories about the players not wanting Sam? I don't know. I mean, I don't think that Albion. I presume Allardyce would cost a bit of money to get rid of, but not that much because he's got a break clause in, he hasn't he, to the end of the season. He could leave at the end of the season. I don't know. I think the only way that Albion would make a change. That was a weird shot. We're just showing this replay of this moment, and Lacazette getting through, and he just skied it over the bar, didn't he? You don't rule it out. I mean, teams who get relegated usually, and who have this kind of season that we've got, usually end up with 2 or 3 managers in the season, don't they? Like when we sacked Pulis, and then we had Pardew, and then we had Darren Moore for the end of the season. It's not out of the question. I think we're a bit early. I mean, it don't matter, does it? You're welcome to ask the question. I think what we need to see is a few more weeks of Allardyce either working his magic or not. I think Bilic was very close to the players, wasn't he? The players liked him, and obviously that's kind of quite nice. But I don't think you have to like the manager at a football club if you play for him. I think that maybe Bilic was too close to the players. Maybe they were a bit too comfortable under him. I don't know. Holes in the narrative says we had a better team this season. We didn't get promoted. Is that from the Championship? You mean? Yeah, we had an aging side then, though, didn't we? Players like James Morrison were still around, Chrissy Brunson and Gareth Barry as well. Oh yeah, Ian says in terms of games being abandoned, yeah, no, he references the game that we played against Sheffield United, the Battle of Bramall Lane, but that wasn't abandoned because of the weather, was it? That was abandoned because they had 4 players sent off, didn't they? Or they didn't have enough players on the pitch. You've got to have 7 on the pitch at least. But that wasn't a top flight game either. I'm just trying to think. It's so rare for a top flight game to be abandoned. I'm just trying to think if I've ever been at an abandoned match. I don't think I've ever seen one live. Mark Wilson's watching. Mark, you'll remember. You've got a better memory than me about things I've done in my life. You tell me if I've ever been at an abandoned match. John Blake says it's insanity picking the same players every week and expecting different results. Well, I think you've got an interesting point there, John. And he certainly hasn't been particularly adventurous in his lineups. But then his first game, he was coming off the back of that game against Manchester City when we played really well. So you think makes sense to keep the same team against Villa. Then we were abysmal. And then he gave most of the same players a chance to, kind of, I'll give you a chance. And they rewarded him with a terrific performance against Liverpool. So then he sticks with the same team, except then you get hammered by Leeds. And then you think, okay, do we go with the same team? And although there've been a couple of changes tonight, problem is he's come in at a time of the season when they're thick and fast, and you don't really have a chance to assess what else you've got. Anyway, I'm going to go and have a Jimmy Riddle now, but I'll see you back for the second half. Thank you for joining in. MP says, I went to Stoke away, got to the ground only to find it was postponed. I went to that one as well. Not a match abandoned, but a game I went to where the match never took place, and it was called off really late, like 2:00. And I think there was a fear, wasn't it, that because Stoke's ground is up high on a hill, isn't it? And there was a fear that the roof of the stand would blow off or something like that. So yeah, I went to that, and I remember walking up to the ground, only seeing people coming away from the ground, and the match was postponed. Ian says, should they have sacked Bilic so close to the Villa game? Well, I think the reality is he was on it. They'd made the decision before the Manchester City game, hadn't they? And they'd obviously sounded Allardyce out. Eve Taylor says, not weather related, but West Ham against Wimbledon when the floodlights failed, and there were all these stories about a Far Eastern betting syndicate going around as well. Anyway, all right. Look, I've got a little coffee here with a little something in it. I'm just going to have a Jimmy Riddle. I'll be back in 3 or 4 minutes. Amuse yourselves for a bit, or you can admire the furniture in my office. Oh, I'm back. Got myself a nice orange Kit Kat, which the missus left me there. It's very nice, isn't it? You can't argue against that. No, I'm back, Julie. I'm back. It's all right, Julie. I'm back. It's okay. Mart says I got to Norwich once and they didn't allow payment on the gate, so we couldn't get in. There were hundreds of us outside the ground in the 90s. I just realised I've forgotten my. It is a long way to not get in. I agree. Let me get my coffee. Oh, that's more like it. Oh, in Wobble Vision. Sky and BT don't offer you that, do they? Wobble Vision. Look at that. Yeah. Mark says, went to Oxford in 94, got to the pub on the A34 and it was called off. We drank in the pub for a while before getting the coach back. I'm just going to do a little tweet. So, oh, quite nice. Chocolate orange Kit Kat. I'll come to your comment in a bit, Mark. Let me just let people know where I am. But bear with me a second, folks. Ugh. That doesn't hurt your ears, by the way, if I'm doing that. Just mute. You might want to mute the thing for a second. I just realised that this the title of this thing on my YouTube is WBA against Aaron Sal, which sounds like something from Frozen, doesn't it? Don't they go to Arendelle or something like that? So yeah, they're just showing some of the lowlights at half time, and they're showing all these Arsenal players passing around us. That's not pleasant to watch, is it? It's very unkind of them. But yeah, they're showing Saka's second goal now. The number of passes that Arsenal make where we don't get a touch on the ball. I mean, that's just not on, isn't it? It speaks of a team who were not quick enough, who were not athletic enough, who were not physical enough. Not good. I wonder if I can change my live stream name. It's the first time I've done this, as you might be able to tell. Do people watch these things normally? Do people, anybody else watch these normally? And do you watch them on these platforms? Oh, it does say WBA v Arsenal. I got it right. Okay. I'm back. Oh yeah, Mark says Palace away in 79. These are matches that were called off. What's the piece of art behind me, says Ian Morley. That's an interesting question. So Ian, a long time ago, I made a film called Manchester Disunited, and it was when the Glazers first took over Man U, and obviously, I mean, just a hideous thing, wasn't it? I'm no fan of Manchester United, and that came out in the film, and in fact, the Manchester FC United people who I kind of made the film with didn't like me and wouldn't help me with the film afterwards, unfortunately. But the Glazers took over United and obviously borrowed a lot of money, and that meant that then the fans were paying, weren't they? Because of all the interest, the fans were having to pay effectively for the Glazers takeover, which they as fans didn't agree with. So FC United was set up, a breakaway from Manchester United, and there were FC Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon were getting going around the same summer as FC United, and so I made a film about it, and it was just sort of to highlight really how football had been hijacked by money. And there was a graffiti artist in Birmingham, a guy who goes by the name of Flake, and that's his signature on the bottom. Flake is a very well regarded graffiti artist, and he did that for me. And it was a scene in the film actually, which we shot in a garage and took hours of preparation that ended up on the cutting room floor. Such is the way of these things. But Flake let me have it. I think I might have paid him 50 quid for it. I paid him for it, or it might even have been a fiver. I can't remember now. Anyway, it's my one work of art by a guy called Flake. So what's all this, Derek? Here we go with Leeds United. We're going to give the boys a hand. Stand up and sing for Leeds United. They are the greatest in the land. Nah, nah, nah. Every day we're all going to say we love you, Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. There's nothing like rubbing it in, is it really? This is Ginger Ninja says, hello, Adrian. It's Dylan, who lives with Paul Rock. Hello, Dylan. Great to have you on board, my friend. Lovely to hear you. Gary Turley says, it's a bloody disgrace. Worst side in my lifetime. Yeah, well, Gary, that's worst side at this level, I think you have to say, don't you? I mean, it'd be an interesting exhibition match, wouldn't it, between this current Albion side and Bobby Gould's team, for example. We're not worse than Bobby Gould's team, are we? Maybe we are. We haven't got Paul Williams up front or George Riley. Who have we got up front now? That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did a review of the Leeds game, a video review of the Leeds game, and I was comparing it to the 1985-86 season. On paper, we had some decent players in that side, but they were dreadful. But I think, as this game is unfolding now, as each week goes by, that record of 4 top flight wins, which was the worst season in Albion's top flight history, you've got to say, can you see this team getting the 4 wins needed? It's funny though, here we are in the midst, half time, 0-2 against obviously a decent side in Arsenal, but not a special side. It's really hard to see the bright side of a game, isn't it? But you just need a little break, and you get you know, a goal in off a backside and you win 1-0 somewhere and it all changes. But I think, you know, Gary, I mean, this is a pretty poor side. No doubt about that. Longy says, with all due respect to Gary Turley, who's going to buy us right now? Well, that's also a question, isn't it? And this is where I think the owners really have shot themselves in the foot. I'm just showing you my Liquidator podcast t-shirt, by the way. If you listen to the Liquidator podcast on Monday, I'll tell you where to get these. Yeah, I mean, the owners, by failing to invest, have created their own problem, haven't they? I mean, ultimately, it's a problem for us as fans, because the owners, whether they sell the club, whether they walk away, the owners will not be associated with West Bromwich Albion in 5 years' time. I think that's pretty obvious. We will be. We'll all be here, God willing, and it'll be our club and our team. And you know, that's kind of what's wrong with football, isn't it? That people can buy into your club, they can own it, they can fail to invest in it, and then they can walk into the sunset, really. The owners will get their fingers burnt now, and this will cost them a lot of money, because as you say, who will want to buy us? This is from James Taylor, says, evening all. Hello, James. Oh, what's happened to Derek? Anyway, he's been rude to people. I don't know. Hope not. James Taylor says the players aren't playing for Sam. Well, that may be true. It may be true. I think, you know, we saw an immediate uplift, didn't we, in that Liverpool game? They were dreadful in his first game against Villa. We saw an immediate uplift in his first game against, in his second game against Liverpool. But what I struggle to understand is we can't get players like Pereira on the ball, can we? Pereira's barely had a touch in this game. This is Hazard Kane circle time. Albion need a new striker like that guy, Michael Garlick from Sugandese United over in France. Dylan says, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Allardyce doesn't keep us up. Well, on the Liquidator podcast, we said that I said if Bilic was our manager, I think Chris Lepkowski stole my line, actually. I said that if Bilic stayed, I'd put Albion's chances of staying up at about 10%. Under Allardyce, I put our chances of staying up at around 40 or 50%. That's still only half at best, you know, what, 50-50 chance, isn't it? You're still saying that we're likely to go down. Oh, Charlie Austin's come on. Charlie Austin, well, I said at half-time he had to make a change, didn't he? He had to do something in this game. And Charlie Austin has come on at half-time. And the second half's just kicked off now. And the ground staff have been out and moved the snow off the lines, cleared the penalty areas. I'm still pleading for a postponement or an abandonment. It's not going to happen, is it, realistically? So so Charlie Austin has come on at half time for Albion and he's replaced Dean Garner. And I have to say, with each game that passes, the acquisition of Dean Garner, which I thought was a terrific thing at the time, it's just not working, is it? And Austin on for Dean Garner. I mean, I guess there'll be a little tweak of formation as well. If Austin, it looks to me like Matty Phillips is playing in a more forward role already. We'll see what happens in the second half. Longy says, I've heard stories about an attitude problem in the squad. Players swanning up late for training and complaining when called into Sam's office. I don't know. I've got no inside track on what goes on in the Hawthorns. I mean, if that's true, it's shocking and it's poor, isn't it? You know, but players are professional footballers, and whoever the manager is, they might not like what's going on. And I say they don't have to like the manager, but they're getting paid to do a job, and if they're not doing it, John says, I can see why Bilic wanted Eze instead of Dean Garner. Well, yeah, but how much did Eze cost? But Eze was never going to come to Albion, I don't think. Once a London team was in for him, he's a London lad. Why would you uproot from London to the West Midlands when you can stay at home? Here's Pereira, a left edge of the 6-yard box, drives it in, off the post. Come on, chance here. Yes, come on, we're back in the game. We're back in the game. Callum Robinson. Fantastic. Brilliant play down there left by Mateus Pereira. They were going on VAR nonsense. Mateus Pereira, his shot struck the post and it came back to Robinson. What's going on? What's going on? Why isn't the goal being given? What's happening here? Is there an offside? A marginal offside, is there? Was Pereira offside? Lovely skill. Drove it against the far post. The ball came out to Robinson, rammed it into that. Brilliant finish by Robinson. No goal. Chalked off. But at least that gives us a bit of hope, doesn't it? Shows that we can get back into this game. And as I said a little earlier, we're not getting Pereira on the ball enough. We need to give the man the ball. He's a magician. Give him the ball. Give Pereira the ball. It almost doesn't matter where he is. He can do something with it. But that is a moment of great hope. So disappointment, chalked off for offside. It was a brilliant bit of play by Pereira. Drove it past the keeper, hit the post on the far side as Albion attacked the Brummie Road. It bounced out to Callum Robinson. Fierce drive from the edge of the penalty area. But he had been, I think it was Robinson himself who had been offside in the build-up. So disappointed. But yeah, that's at least Albion now, that's something, isn't it? And that's where if there was a crowd inside the Hawthorns now, you're come on, we can get after them. We can win this game now. Come on, Albion. That's what we want, You want the players putting in a bit, giving us something to shout about, the fans responding on our feet. Come on, Albion, we can do this. So we can. We've only got 47 minutes gone. That proved we can breach the Arsenal back line. Sadly, it's still 2-0, but we are still in there. We are still in there. John says, do you think it's Bilic's fault the players don't look fit or lack of effort? Yeah, I'm always wary of lack of effort with professional footballers. I think it's easy to call them out for that. I think players generally want to do well. And I think sometimes they lose a bit of heart, which is you shouldn't do as a professional, but I think you do, and I think your body language maybe betrays that. But I think if the players are lacking fitness, then I think you do have to put that down to the coach. And I mean, that's only the evidence of my eyes. I'm not a sports professional, kind of sports fitness professional, but many people have said that Albion seem to fade in games, and I would say I think there is an issue with fitness. There's also an issue with discipline. I know that we've probably had a bit of a raw deal from referees this season, but we've had 3 red cards, haven't we? And it's just that adds to your problems all the time. Often it happens as well with struggling teams that you do get that, but we're not a dirty team. It's not like we've earned the red cards through kicking teams off the park. Sadly, we've earned them through silliness like Livermore's ridiculous red card against Villa. Absolute nonsense. This is from Hutch Mike, who says, under Bilic, hello Hutch Mike, if I haven't mentioned you, by the way, forgive me, but the names I can see on my screen at the moment are Parksy, Longy, Marks Travels, James Taylor, Gary Turley, John Hassel. Parksy, John Hassel, the same people. Hutch Mike, Mike Buckland, lovely to have you all with me, and everybody else who I haven't mentioned, Paul Spencer, Ashley, Stokes, John Hassel. Under Bilic, says Hutch Mike, I felt connected and proud to call Albion my club again, even with a poor start to this season. Sam Allardyce will not improve us and just reminds me of how I felt under Pulis. Well, I understand what you're saying, Mike. A lot of people, don't back off him, don't back off. It's ridiculous. They're walking towards our penalty area and we're backing off. Nonsense. You can't do that. You've got to be pushing up and closing the space. Look, a lot of people don't like the owners, and they felt that Bilic got dealt a raw hand, which he did. And if he'd had money, he would have invested it perhaps more wisely than Luke Downing has done. But he can't have come to the Albion expecting lots of money. There's a little break there with, is it goal kick? Yeah, Gallagher doing a little run forward. I understand that Bilic would have felt hard done by, because he may have been able to, had he been able to spend more money, may have been able to keep us up. All right, I get that. But it can have been no surprise to Bilic. He knew what the deal was when he took the job. So for him to complain that he didn't have money, well, that was the gig, mate. That was the gig. So when he goes, and of course he's harshly treated, it's very poor Slaven, you know, but we were going down under him. It's not Allardyce's fault that Bilic was sacked. And I don't think Allardyce is Pulis. So I think I would just say to fans, you know, if you feel that you don't like the owners, fair enough. And if you feel that Bilic was hard done by, fair enough. But please don't, you know, I just say as an Albion fan, don't take it out on Allardyce. None of that is his fault. And he's a professional. I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he isn't Pulis. He really isn't Pulis. And I think he's got much more on his CV than Pulis has. And I think he's, you know, he deserves some respect as a manager. And he's not the most exciting signing, but at the same time, he's done things with clubs like Palace, with clubs like Bolton, where you might say, well, okay, if you can do it with those clubs, you might be able to do it with West Bromwich Albion. If you can do it without any investment, the man is a magician. This might be the occasion in his career when he, you know, it just works against him. But, you know, let's see. But that's all I'd say. Good cross there by Robinson. The heads go up. A little bit of a clash inside the penalty area. The Arsenal keeper's got it. Clash of heads. The Arsenal defender Tierney is down. The number 3. So, and I understand that point you say about you felt connected with the club under Bilic. And I think, I don't think that connection can survive a season when you're losing every week. And if your point of connection with Bilic is he plays nice football, but we only win 2 games all season, you know, what does that do? The board could have kept him there as a kind of fig leaf, couldn't they? It would have been easier from the board's point of view to have kept Bilic and say, well, we're giving the fans what they want. He wouldn't have kept us in the top division. And, you know, I think having worked so hard to get to the top division, I think we need to give it a proper stab at staying there, however difficult that may be. Keith says WBA are a championship club. Well, the history of football, Keith, says different. The history of football, Keith, my friend, I don't know who you support, Keith. The history of football says that of all the clubs in English football, West Bromwich Albion have got the 11th highest number of points in top flight football in England. So the history of English football says that West Bromwich Albion are very much a top flight club. The 11th highest point scorers in English football of all time. So there you go, Keith. Up yours. MP says, wasn't it Shana? What's happening there, Robbins? Oh, Johnson's off his line. Bit of a calamity defensively there. Johnson was off his line. We've managed to scramble it clear. Saka's going through now. Here's Sawyer's at the back. Oh, man, I'll need to look at that again. I'm too busy chatting to you lot to watch what's going on in the game. Lacazette, was it going through? So I'm just give me a second. I need to see this moment. They've got the ball in central midfield, and then his question of Lacazette being offside, but he wasn't. Johnson came off his line, but didn't get the ball. Lacazette managed to square it, and Albion. Oh, Johnson touched Lacazette there, and Dara O'Shea hooked it clear. If Lacazette had gone over, then I think that would have been a penalty because Johnston touched his leg. You can't do that as a keeper. You've got to come off your line and get the ball. You've got to get it. There's just no two ways about it. And he came and he didn't get it. Anyway, he did enough, I suppose, and put Lacazette off to the point where he could only cross the ball. And then Lacazette, thankfully, didn't go over when he was touched. Chance here for Albion. The ball's biffed into the box. It's a bit aimless, though, from Albion. At least Albion got the sense of having a go in this second half, haven't they? This is Gary Turley says we'll never do any good until Lie sells up. Well, again, I'm no anybody who's listened to the Liquidator podcast will know that I'm no apologist for the West Bromwich Albion board, far from it. And for my money, the sooner the current owners sell the club and move on, the better. So let's make no bones about that. But the board clearly do want us to stay in the Premier League, the same as every fan. And they don't want it for the same reasons. We want it because we love West Bromwich Albion and we want them to play at the highest level that they possibly can. The board want us to stay in the Premier League because their investment will be worth much, much more if we're in the top division. They're going to lose money on it, having spent 200 million. The club's not worth 200 million quid, especially in these coronavirus times. But they will lose much less if we are in the Premier League than if we are in the Championship. So the board of directors, from that point of view, want the same as the club. They want it for different reasons, but I think they want the same, which is for us to stay up. Chance here on the edge of the penalty area. That is a dreadful pass. Was it Dara O'Shea who gave the ball away when we were in a good position there? Parksy says, I think Sam will walk just before relegation is announced, keeping his reputation intact. Well, maybe, you know, managers may sometimes do that, don't they? They don't want to be associated with the relegation. I think, having come to the club at this point, I think he would have to accept the association with relegation, wouldn't he? Because the past master of this was Ron Saunders, wasn't he? Who took us down in 85, 86. He had also, in the same season that he took us down in our worst ever top flight season, when we won over only 4 games, he'd also earlier that season, or later that season, managed Birmingham City, didn't he? So I think Ron Saunders had a double relegation to his credit in that season. Absolutely stupid tackle by Ivanovic there on the halfway line. I've been critical of Ivanovic already today because I just think it was a big thing for Bilic to sign him and spend all that money in wages. You know, it's costing us a lot of money, is Ivanovic, and he's nowhere near justified his fee. He hasn't brought the experience, he hasn't brought the solidity to the defence, and he just looks slow and he looks past it, quite honestly. Yeah, James Taylor says we biffed it into the box. That's about our level at the moment. Oh, how are we going? Oh, I wouldn't be playing back passes on this surface. God, that's Dara O'Shea. Paul Spencer says, I think Sam will keep you up. It won't be pretty, but I think you will survive. Well, he may do. He won't. He may do. And in fairness to Allardyce, you know, he's working with somebody else's players. I commented earlier on what I thought was quite a bit of an ignorant comment by Martin Keown on the BT Sport, saying that Albion will try and mix it up. And it's like, no, we won't, Martin, because we don't have the players to mix it up. And if you'd done your homework, you'd realise that we don't have the players to mix it up. That's part of the problem. But I think Allardyce would like a player in there who could mix it up. The question is, who can we get? Who can we get? Who, you know, we can pay reasonable wages, but we can't pay decent transfer fees. And now we're in this relegation scrap. You've got players who are going to potentially come on loan are going to look at us and think, well, as a player, do I want that relegation on my CV? Could I go to a loan to a club where I'm going to finish 12th in the Premier League instead of 19th, which, you know, is a very real possibility at the moment. Got to be grateful only Sheffield United are worse than us. Arsenal on the attack now. They haven't had much of the ball in the second half. Here's Sacco going down the right-hand side. Too easy there for Sacco. Oh, did that come off the bar? Hammered just off the line. Finally, they get it in for 3-0. Is that? Yeah, it looks like 3. Yeah, it is 3-0. That was, again, calamitous defending by Albion. Albion have done reasonably well in this half, but you know, we had opportunities to clear the ball there. That's not good. That's not good. Just the hour gone. 3-0 down. Mark Wilson says Saunders dropped Garth Crooks and signed Stuart Evans. Yeah, this is Parksy says, I'd love to know how many of these signings were Bilic signings. Yeah, that's a good point. So this is the goal, the third Arsenal goal. O'Shea is beaten far too easily. The ball was hooked onto the post. Second shot. Yeah, I mean, Ivanovic is there again with the guy who puts the ball away. Come on, Ivanovic, move. I think Semi Ajayi hooked it against the post. Then it was driven in. It hit Semi Ajayi on the line. He'd hooked it onto the post originally. The shot was driven in, hit Semi Ajayi on the line, then comes out. And Ivanovic is absolutely flat-footed as Lacazette puts it in the box. That's, you know, it's a piss-poor goal to give away, really. Yeah, well, I mean, clearly we're not coming back in this game, are we? So it's not good. We're not. You know, this is now about damage limitation, isn't it? We've had a go in the second half, but we cannot defend. We cannot defend. And I mean, you think it's looking like you think, well, could goal difference be the difference here? It probably won't, because we will almost certainly be clearly down. But the number of goals shipped this season. Anyway, we'll see if we don't make something of this game yet. Ball lofted to the back post. We get a corner. We get a corner there. Gallagher went up for that. It's Albion corner. Charlie Austin challenging away. Ian says, what would we pay to have the 1-0 wins like we had under Megson? I feel negative when we hit the Premier League, as you know, there won't be the funding. Then when we go down, at least we get some points. The ball's driven to the back post. That's a poor cross, that is. Ashley says we've got worse under Big Sam. Well, it's hard to disagree with that, Ashley. I tend to agree with you. I was in favour, reluctantly, I should say, very reluctantly, of getting rid of Slaven Bilic, just because I thought we were nailed on to go down under Bilic. And I thought bringing Allardyce in would give us a chance, would get us better organised. It is early days for Allardyce yet. This is only his 4th game, but we're in a situation where we need to get results immediately, and we're not getting them. Stuart says, do you worry with the stories from reputable journos about how the club is run, that we could end up as another Sunderland? It happened after 86 and we spent the 90s being shite. Cheers, says James. Yeah, thank you. Well, look, no, I do feel exactly that, Stuart. I do fear that there is a very real danger. Oh, yeah, there's a bit of clash of heads there. Is it Phillips gone down? Yeah. There's a very real danger that we could, because I think when Shu Key was appointed as chief executive in place of Mark Jenkins. I mean, Mark Jenkins, whatever you think of him, and he wasn't universally popular with Albion fans. I mean, a lot of fans probably don't even know who Mark Jenkins is. He's just another bloke wearing a suit, but he was the chief executive throughout Jeremy Peace's reign. But Shu Key, as I understand it, who's now the chief executive, is a friend. Is 4-0. There we go. How many do you want, Arsenal? The ball knocked in from the left. I mean, it's too easy now for them, isn't it? Shu Key, who is the chief executive, is the son of a friend of Gurchan Lai. And it's like, what kind of recruitment procedure do you have to go through to appoint the mate of the owner's best friend? It doesn't speak of a club that is well run. Clearly, there was tension between Luke Dowling, the football director, and Slaven Bilic. There's the ball coming in now for the cross. This is for the 4th goal. They're just looking to check for offside. Lacazette, too easy there. He's between 2 defenders. The ball's pinged out to the left wing. Furlong doesn't get to him, and Lacazette is between the middle of the 2 of them. It's another poor goal. It's a really poor goal to concede. Shemir Jay sort of dipping his head there, couldn't get towards it. No sign of Ivanovic. Absolutely shocking. And I mean, we're now at a point, aren't we, 64 minutes into this game, where for Albion, even though you want your team to be on the front foot and looking to attack, it's got to be about damage limitation now. It's got to be about making sure that we don't get beat 7 or 8, because at the moment it looks like that. And I think we've seen in this second half, we saw Albion coming out at the start of the second half, and in fairness, having a bit of a go. Always bringing Kyle Bartley on now. Let's see who's going off. Ivanovic is going off. Oh, there we go. 4-0 down. Takes off the 60 grand a week, man. And brings on Kyle Bartley. So, yeah, it's all about damage limitation in this game. And it sounds negative, but in this game now, I want Albion not to lose by more than 4-0. We've got no chance of winning this game. And I'd sooner see us lose 4-0 than lose 6-1. Even though you'd have the joy of seeing a goal, it's got to be about just not shipping any more goals in 25 minutes. Next to impossible, I'd say, for this Albion team. It's, yeah. Ian says the owner is the only one to blame. Yeah. Clearly, the owners have to take. They're the ultimate. They're the people in charge of the football club, aren't they? They've got to take responsibility. Nobody tackling there on the right, on our defensive right. Arsenal just playing all around us. And a shot came off an Arsenal player. It's a goal kick. Um, Who was this? This is Gary says Jeremy Peace got lucky. He had Dan Ashworth. Could have had Lukaku for 18 million. Could he? Could he really have had Lukaku? I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of that. Lukaku was certainly available. He was a player who had travelled from Belgium to play for Chelsea. Was clearly a player who'd been a fabulous young player, a youth player coming through. And then Lukaku, that's a great season for us. It may be that we could have afforded him at 18 million at that time. Did we really turn him down, or did Lukaku prefer to move to what he regarded as a bigger club? I don't. I mean, I don't know. It's easy to say these things, but I just don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of it. But if I was Lukaku's agent and my choice was to go to Everton or to West Bromwich Albion, even a good West Bromwich Albion team, I probably would have taken Everton. Everton probably would have offered him bigger wages, I would have thought. Yeah. But we certainly haven't got any players of that quality. This player, Sacco's going down the right now again. He's run rings round us all night, hasn't he? And this was a game I thought Albion had a chance in, because Arsenal have been struggling this season. But they've obviously got their confidence back in the couple of games prior to this. But we've made it too easy for them. Way, way too easy. And the way we're defending now, and that's just an aimless hoof out of defence, I think, by Gallagher. We look beaten, don't we? We look like we know we're not going to do anything in this game. I mean, at 4-0, we're not, are we? It's the truth of it. But yeah, maybe that might be the last we see of Ivanovic. I wonder. Because he's taking up big wages. I wonder whether Albion might be able to move him on and get somebody in on similar wages. He can actually do a job for us. There's Gallagher having a good brave run to Callum Robinson on the byline, pulls it back, but goes to a forest of Arsenal players. They get to clear their lines. This is Gary says he won't go again until Lai goes. That's simple. Well, fair enough. Yeah, James Taylor says the loss of Dan Ashworth. Dan Ashworth was our fantastic head of recruitment. But again, it's not just Dan Ashworth. I mean, it's quite a few years now since Dan Ashworth went, isn't it? And he was brilliant, and he'd come up through the ranks, and he knew what Albion needed. But we've lost in the last couple of years now, the last 18 months, we've lost virtually all of our top academy people. Booking there for Conor Gallagher, a silly challenge, really, kind of a hacked off hack. Most of our academy structure has been dismantled and carried to Villa Park. It's bad enough that it's been dismantled. The fact that it's gone to Villa Park. Somebody was telling me about our coaching structure in Gloucestershire. We had a really good scouting network there, but which has now been taken over by Villa. And it's those things that tell you that the club isn't really being looked after, isn't being cared enough by the people who run it. They don't understand football, is my impression. They don't understand English football. Yeah, Stuart. Well, Stuart makes my point. What's happening with the academy? We always had that to hang on to. Two things about they're taking Saka off now. That's some relief, because he's given us the runaround. Willian's coming on now. Saka's had a fantastic game. Looks a real talent, doesn't he, for Arsenal? Our academy was something that we've taken real pride in, but a lot of the key players now, I don't mean the players on the pitch, the key people behind it are now running Aston Villa's academy, which should be a matter of real concern for us. And there should be some real hard questions asked by people at the top of West Bromwich Albion saying, how has this happened? How has Aston Villa got hold of our top academy people? How has Aston Villa got hold of our scouting network? This is, as I understand it, in Gloucestershire. How's that happened? But to answer those questions, you've got to know what's going on, and you've got to care about the football club. You just got to give a damn about these things, haven't you? And there's no sense of a firm hand on the tiller behind the scenes at the Albion. And that said, the number of players who've come through from our academy, considering the rave reviews they've got, has been pretty minimal, hasn't it, really? We've had Sam Field, who a succession of managers haven't chosen. I know he's injured now, and I like Samfield as a player myself very much. Hasn't quite made the breakthrough. Guys like Jonathan Lico, now at Blues, lots of talent, never quite made it for us. Kyle Edwards, he's I think 22 now, needs to make the breakthrough soon. Raheem Harper got his big contract, never quite delivered. Dara O'Shea has been a revelation from the academy, and I really like Dara O'Shea. But we need more of these players to actually come through and demonstrate that they are worth a first team place. You know, it's a tough old job, isn't it, to come from the youth ranks and then play for a Premier League team. Yeah, Longy says, yeah, there's a reason why Louis Barry's at Villa now. All the staff he grew up with are there right now. A gem of a tweet. Our goal difference is now so bad you can store the Pfizer vaccine in it. Very good. Yeah, Mark saying most of the academy players are average championship players. The thing is, though, and that might be true. That might be true. But even an average championship player like Lico brought us £2 million in. Now, £2 million can run your academy for the next year, can't it? So you get a Berahino. Obviously, he went off the rails, but a proper talented footballer, and he generated £12 million for us. Lots of the others won't be, and he could have generated a lot more, of course. But a lot of the players won't be that good, won't get you your 12 million. But your 2 millions here, your 500,000s here, they all help the academy to pay for itself. So we know that most of them who are signed by the academy are not going to be professional footballers. Of the ones who do, most of them are not going to be Premier League footballers. The idea is that you get to keep the ones who are good enough, but then the reality of football being that you can then trade the players who are not quite good enough for you, but who are good enough to do a job lower down the leagues, and I think that's a perfectly sensible model for Albion to follow. But considering how good the academy has supposed to have been, I think there's been a rather disappointing end product so far. There's players, aren't there, like Rehan Tulloch. We keep hearing about Jamie Saul. Diaby's on the bench today, isn't he? I wonder if he might get a late run out. Boeing says the sooner these owners go, the better, but the players are not even close to being good enough for the Prem. This is what happens when you try competing in the Prem with a weaker team that got up. Absolutely. Couldn't disagree with that. I've got to say, when the season started, I thought we had a chance of staying up. I really did. But you always have to factor in the fact that I'm an optimistic person. I'm perennially optimistic. And I acknowledge that in myself. I'm slightly delusional when it comes to the Albion and think, oh, we're going to win. But when you look at it really now, chance here for Arsenal, ball pinged over. Oh, that should have been in, really. Another miss by Aubameyang. Typical, isn't it? We're getting stuffed 4-0 by Arsenal. 4-0, which is not the result I want. And the one player in my fantasy football team who plays for Arsenal is Aubameyang, who can't hit a barn door with a banjo tonight. Absolutely bloody typical. Oh, there we go. Let's see now. I was talking about last season when we came up. I thought, we've got a chance. But when you look at it, the way we came back at the back end of last season after coronavirus, we were poor and we only stumbled over the line. And the players deserve credit for the season's effort in which they got us promotion. But I think those last few months after coronavirus lockdown were actually a warning signal. And I think I took it as a bit of it doesn't really matter. We've got up now and the players have got a fresh start. Actually, the warning signs were there. They were there with hindsight. And I'm a fan, so it doesn't matter if I get it wrong, does it? But clearly the people running the club, and I have to say, I think Slaven Bilic himself got it a bit wrong, because I think he stuck with players and with formations that were not Premier League quality. But again, he could only work with what he was given by the board and by Luke Dowling, the director of football, who he clearly had some issues with. Mark says, I did think we had a chance of staying up. I thought we had players who might hold the ball. I expected more from Grant, Garner, and Ivanovic. Yep, I can't disagree. I think Grant has been a disappointment. And you look at how Ollie Watkins has done it. You look at how Ollie Watkins has done. You can step up from the Championship and do well in the Premier League. Of course you can. And Grant, in a different team, maybe he would have done better. I don't know. There's talk of him not really being played in his best position because we needed a central striker. So he's played as a central striker, but really he's a player who likes to come in from wide. So Grant has been disappointment. Garner has been a massive, massive disappointment this season. Ivanovic has been for me, has had an absolute shocker. Somebody, I think Gary said, Furlong should never play for the club again. Sawyer should never play for the club again. I don't really like saying that. You know, players, going back a long time before I started watching Albion properly, but Albion had players under Don Howe when we were a very average Championship team. We were an average Championship for 3 years under Don Howe. And those players, the core of that team, who were average Championship players under Don Howe, finished under Johnny Giles as promotion winners. And then in their first season put it over the bar. In our first season in the top division under Johnny Giles, that team finished 7th. Charlie Austin just put one over the bar. Might have done better there. Let's have a look at this one. Crossing from the left. Nodded down. There's Austin. He kind of got his feet onto it. There was a defender in front of him, really. It wasn't an easy chance. But so my point is about when people like Gary are kind of saying that Sawyers and Furlong shouldn't play for this team again. If I had to say a player who shouldn't play for the Albion again, for me, it would be Ivanovic, who's just never looked at it this season. But whatever. My bigger point is that players who look really bang average under one manager can look like world beaters under another. And it's a long time ago, I know, but you look back at the team that was so rubbish under Don Howe, who was kind of for a long time regarded as one of the worst Albion managers, even though he'd been a good player for us. The same players under Don Howe were the bulk of the promotion winning team under John Giles. Obviously, one of the key differences was that team had John Giles in it, which is what Don Howe didn't have. And he did sign a couple of players, but Paddy Mulligan, Mick Martin, themselves, who were not particularly rated players, but he moulded them. So I wouldn't write off Sawyers. I wouldn't write off Furlong. I would write off Ivanovic, if I'm honest. But what I would say with those players is if you get the right formation and the right manager, then those players can do well. And they've done well for Albion. I mean, Furlong and Sawyers both did really well in a promotion team for Albion. If they're found out at the highest level, fine, then they'll have to move on. But, you know, I don't think they don't want to do well for Albion. And I think, you know, they've played their part in a success for our team. Arsenal on the break, down the left-hand side. Good save by Johnson at the near post from Aubameyang, I think it was. Mark says, yeah, I think Furlong's been okay in context. Stuart says, do you think we've suffered more without the extra push of the crowd? I think there may be. I think there's a theory going around, isn't it, which is that I haven't betrayed my Liquidator T-shirt for a bit. Liquidator podcast, next edition coming out Monday. I'll tell you where to get the T-shirts then. If my mate Manish is watching, this is yours, Manish, but I'll have to wash it so it's not COVID infected. Not that I've got COVID, by the way. Yeah, that was Aubameyang, wasn't it? Breaking down the left-hand side. Did well. Beat Bartley. Good save by Johnson at the near post. Yeah. Longy says, I've lost my thread now. It doesn't matter, though. Mark says, yeah, Ivanovic is too old. His legs have gone. Leggy says, Austin body language is terrible. The great thing about him was always his confident attitude. It's been drained from him. Awful to watch this. Yeah, well, I was at the game at St Andrews against Blues when Austin came on a sub. That was a great, great afternoon, wasn't it? Away at Blues in the promotion season. And Austin comes on a sub, looking a little bit like that, a little bit like me. and scores 2 fantastic goals, doesn't he? The one on the turn, the long range shot was fantastic. There's a crossing for Arsenal. Could it be 5? No, good block. Good to see Albion still battling away. It goes out for a corner. Furlong getting in there, showing good spirit and good attitude. But Austin scored that brilliant goal on the turn, didn't he? And then he got up at the back post. Brilliant header as well when we beat Blues. Turned a 2-1 deficit. In a game we could easily have lost, turned that into a 3-2 win. But Austin hasn't had his shooting boots for a while now. And again, another player you think, has time beaten him really? As it comes to every player, doesn't it? If they hang about. But Austin hasn't looked great for a long time for us. Arsenal with a corner on the left-hand side. If Dylan's still watching, say hello to Proc. Dylan, lovely to have you on. Thank you. Hello to Proc as well. This is Matt. Ball coming in from the left. Yeah. Matt says, why not play Harper after Sawyer's messed up against Leeds? Take him out the firing line and Harper gets a game in which he's going to relish. Well, I think Matt, that's a good point. And I mean, clearly after this game, I was saying earlier, we had the game against Man City when we played well, which was Bilic's last game. Then the rubbish game, Willock's on our ex-Albion loanee. We had the rubbish game against Villa after the good game against Man City. Then the rubbish game against Leeds after the good game against Liverpool. So maybe, Allardyce, it's going to take him a few weeks, isn't it, to find out the players he can rely on or who can play in his system or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if we're getting thumped 5-0 and then 4-0, then even if you think the replacements might not be up to snuff, you've got to give them a chance, haven't you? I agree with you, basically. You've got to be looking at giving Harper a chance. You've got to be looking at giving Grzycki a chance. I was convinced he'd give Grzycki a chance, but he's been pretty conservative with his lineup so far, Allardyce, I think. But I think, there's a chance, isn't there? We're going to play Blackpool in the Cup. There's every chance that we'll have, he'll be saying to players for that game, won't he? Come on, then stake your claim. Because I think it would be terrible for morale if we lost to Blackpool, though eminently possible that we'll lose to Blackpool. So I don't think he should play a strictly reserve team for that game by any means. But I think he will give players a chance in that game. I think Harper, I think Grzycki, and say to them, come on then, if you want that first team shirt, put in a performance and show us what you've got. Mark says the owners are lucky in the respect that there are no fans in, and Longy says I don't think the owners care what the fans think. Well, half the problem is that, I mean, we've on the Liquidator podcast, we've talked about the kind of the puzzle around the ownership of Albion is that the people who ultimately own West Bromwich Albion don't go to the games, do they? But I think, the representatives of the board, there are representatives of the board at Albion, and I don't care at one level who you are. If you've got 25,000 people chanting abuse at you, I think you do care. You're human. I think it would make a difference. We need players now, not the end of Jan. Oh, that's Willock's brother, says Parksy. Thank you. You're betraying my great ignorance. Not for the first time, Parksy. Thank you for, we can just erase this because this isn't happening live, is it? We can cut that out in the edit. Thank you. Longy says Charlie Austin looks really trim now, to his credit, but he's lost his swagger. Does he look trim? He might. You'll be telling me I look trim. I don't know about that, Parksy. He's probably looking a bit trimmer. But again, that was one of the things, wasn't it, when we came back after lockdown? One or two players looked like they hadn't really kind of taken care of themselves properly, really. Not good. Who was Anderson assistant manager, Mart? Wasn't it Big Sam with Talbot? Perhaps that's an open. I remember the Bobby Gould sit-ins, says Mark. Well, I remember, here's one, when Bobby Gould came to the Brummie Road after a game and addressed the Brummie Road with a megaphone. Do you remember that? I'm pretty sure it was the game against Swansea where the postman John Williams played for Swansea, scored a hat-trick, and he'd been playing down the road at Cradley, and Swansea signed him. Is there going to be a sending off here? There is, isn't there? Studs up tackle. Is it only a yellow? Only a yellow. I thought there might be a sending off there. Yeah, that was a pretty fierce tackle on Callum Robinson. Oh, that was a scissor tackle. That should have been a red. I mean, that on the basis of sendings off for Albion this season from Chaballo, that should have been a sending off. He was doing the usual, what me, ref? That should have been a sending off by Chaballos. That really should have been. It was a scissor tackle, studs up, based on Perez. Parksy says he remembers the Bobby Gould. Yeah, well, that was a game. It was a weird game, Parksy. I was just making my way in, sort of commentating and stuff like that. Charlie Austin has a go, ball charge down. And I was doing the commentary for Albion's sort of in-house commentary. They used to do videos of the games and beam the commentary into the executive boxes. And I can't quite remember now, but I got invited to do some of those commentaries. And but I was a fan, I was a fan in the commentary box. And at the end of the game, I could see there was a big knot of fans who refused to move after this 3-2 defeat, after the John Williams hat-trick, and refused to move from Brummie Road. And I went and joined them after the game. I went in, the exit to the Brummie Road was open, and I went and joined them. And the next thing I know, Bobby Gould is down there with a megaphone, apologising for the performance and promising that things would get better. But they never did, under Bobby anyway. Conor Gallagher lets one go. Ooh. Keeper took it. It was pretty much straight at him, really, wasn't it? But we've seen too few of those moments from Albion in the game. Just having a go, really. Just having a go. I felt that, in the Leeds game, Leeds scored 5 against us. Their goalkeeper looked really jittery, I thought. He's obviously got something, but there was definitely some of the jitters about the Leeds keeper, and we needed to test him. We needed to work the keeper. And that's something we failed to do for most of this season. Ball crossed in from the right for Arsenal. Header wide, thankfully. James says, thanks for doing this. It's a great way of getting through the game. Well, I'll thank you, everybody, for doing it. I was talking about the thing that you miss, from going down the game, and it is chatting to your mates, isn't it? And if anybody uses any other platforms, by the way, because I think there are platforms where you can do it, where we can have chat. I don't want to just be me rambling on for 2 hours. So if you know of any other platforms where I can do it and where people can join in, other than just on this text, I've just got a little text console here. I don't know what you can see on yours, but if we've got any other platform we can do it on, then I'd happily do it on another platform so that we can chat and banter and Mart says it's like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I know what you mean, Mart. We're all suffering together. Come on, Albion. Let's get one late on. 89 minutes gone. In fairness, there was a little period when Arsenal scored their 3rd, and I thought this could be 7 or 8, and Arsenal got their 4th. And Albion have stuck at it pretty well since then, which isn't to say that Arsenal haven't had chances, but it's a strange game because you can't take much credit from a 4-0 defeat. But Albion are still going here at the end of this game and looking like they're interested in it. And in the Leeds game, there's a chance. There's a chance. Pereira's run into trouble. In the Leeds game, we kind of bottled it up at 5-0, didn't we? Or 4-0, we bottled it up, and they only scored 1 more in the second half. But we didn't look at anything like, we were just completely outclassed and outplayed in that game. In this game, we've had a few moments where we've looked like we might be able to do something. I'm clutching at straws. You do realise that, of course. Straws are all I've got to clutch at. Ashley says Zoom. Yeah, no. The thing with Zoom is, though, don't you have to pay for Zoom, Ashley? If you're gonna run it for this length of time, so you can get free Zoom for half an hour, but you can't get free Zoom for this length of time, I don't think. Derek says we couldn't score against 10 snowmen at the moment. Ian says Big Sam looks well peed off. Mark says Albion freeze again. Yeah, for you, last couple of minutes, feel free to float your headlines through. Let's have the headlines for this game. Outgunned, Albion outgunned. No, good save. Well, it wasn't a good save. It was straight at him, really, wasn't it? But I was dreading a fifth one going in. 4-0 suddenly, it doesn't seem, 5-0 feels like a real drubbing, doesn't it? 4-0 just, it's just a regular drubbing. Yeah. Wow. Matt says if it stays at 4-0, that's 24 conceded in 9 home games this season with only 5-4. Boeing says not enjoyed the game, but enjoyed the live chat tonight. Certainly makes it easy to get through the match. Thank you, Boeing UK. Parksy says, yeah, that's sent to Ian Kirby. That's why Big Sam's upset. He's realised he's got no chance of that £2 million bonus. Oh, yes. Stuart says, I was there in the 90s when Crewe beat a Dennis Smith team 5-1 at home. Not quite that bad yet. I saw that game. I stood in the Smedic, I think, for that game against Crewe. Yeah, we were completely out. There was a few seasons when Crewe had it over us. I mean, Crewe, for a time, had loads of really good footballers. Come on, it's a goal. Come on, surely. Oh, that was a good save. That was a really decent moment for the Albion there. Raheem Harper. There we go. I missed him coming on as sub. Don't tell anyone. That was a good effort. He can do that, Harper. My question mark about Harper is about his engine, about his ability to kind of keep it up over 90 minutes. But he's got an eye for goal. He's got something about his game. He probably will start next time. Indiana Spring says, imagine Sam having to be interviewed after the back of off the back of Villa, Leeds, etc. Well, I think this isn't the Leeds performance. There we are, full time. The Leeds performance was an absolute shocker with nothing to commend it. There's at least some things he can take out of this game, not much. Anyway, listen, thank you, everybody. Assuming most of the people watching this are all West Bromwich Albion fans. James says, will I do a 1-minute summary? I'll manage it, James, don't worry. So look out for me 1-minute review of the game. Don't forget to listen to the Liquidator podcast. The next episode will be available on Monday. I'll be reviewing this game and the Leeds game. 2 matches played, 2 lost, 9 conceded. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. See you next time.